1 gigawatt. I just want you to sit with that number for a second. That is basically the energy output of a nuclear reactor.
It's enough to power something like 750,000 homes.
An incredible amount of energy. And this week, Meta announced they're building a single facility in Indiana that will consume that much power. And all of that is for what, exactly? Animated profile pictures.
Yeah, or mapping some trees in England. It sounds a little absurd when you put it like that, doesn't it?
It does.
But that's really the tension this week. We're looking at February 9th to 15th, 2026. And the whole story is this collision between massive industrial scale power, the gigawatts, and the super specific, almost delicate things you get out of it.
And we have a huge stack of sources to get through today. We've got Meta's official research blogs, the usual papers from Archeft, and even some pretty uncomfortable internal leaks that came out via Reuters.
And don't forget that EU antitrust finding. That one really challenges the whole business model.
Right. So let's start with what we're actually getting for that gigawatt. We talk about AI as this big general brain, but the research this week felt very, very specific. I'm looking at the AIRS bench release from February 10th.
Yes, FAIR, Meta's fundamental AI research team. AIRS bench is, well, it's a fascinating reality check.
A reality check how?
For a while, the hype has been that AI is going to automate science. Just give it a hypothesis and it, cures cancer overnight.
And AIRS bench is basically the report card on that whole idea.
Exactly. They built 20 tasks that cover the entire scientific research life cycle. I mean, not just summarize this paper, but the hard stuff.
Like what?
Like generating ideas, writing the actual code for an experiment, analyzing raw data. And they pitted AI agents against human experts in fields like bioinformatics.
I saw the results. Mixed seems like a kind of diplomatic way to put it.
It is mixed, but the details here are really important. In 4 of the 20 tasks, the AI didn't just match the human experts, it actually beat them.
Okay, so that's the headline.
That's the headline the optimist will grab, for sure. It shows that for certain, very well-defined computational problems, the machine's already better.
But then there's the other 16 tasks.
And in the other 16, they failed to match the humans. And they failed in a really specific way. The agents are amazing at the structured parts of the computation, but the messy parts of science, figuring out why something failed, or changing direction when the data looks weird, that's still very human.
So we're not at the autonomous scientist level.
Okay.
Not yet.
Not even close.
So the AI is better at observation and calculation, but not intuition. That actually connects perfectly to the story out of the UK on February 9th. This wasn't a benchmark. This was a real-world application.
The Force Research Agency, yeah. This is a great example of taking this huge, powerful tool, Meta's Dino V2 model, and using it for a very, very specific job.
Which was counting trees. But not just any trees.
Counting the invisible trees. See, governments are pretty good at mapping big forests. Big green patches are easy to spot from space. But the trees outside woodlands, that lone oak in a field, the hedges along a road, those are a nightmare to track.
Usually need LiDAR for that, right? Which is expensive.
Super expensive. But Dino V2 did it just by looking at 18 million satellite images. It mapped England's canopy at a 1-meter resolution. And the result was, well, kind of shocking.
How so?
Those lone trees make up 30% of England's total tree canopy.
30%. That is a massive data gap to just suddenly fill. That's carbon accounting, biodiversity. That's policy-level data that basically didn't exist before.
Exactly. And it was all unlocked because Dino V2 is a self-supervised model. It doesn't need people to label every single tree for it to learn. It just generalizes incredibly well. It's that huge compute power being applied to, environmental science.
And speaking of models understanding what they're seeing, there was another paper from FERRET that felt like a big technical step forward. UNIT. It dropped in the 11th.
UNIT, yeah. Unified Multimodal Chain of Thought. This one tackles a big frustration with vision models.
Which is what?
Usually you show an AI a picture of a messy room, you ask, where are my keys? And it just says, on the table.
And you have no idea if it actually saw the keys or if it's just guessing. The keys are often on tables.
Precisely. It's a black box. UNIT forces the model to show its work, just like text models do. It makes it generate a sequence of thought. Something like, I see a table. On the table is a bowl. Behind the bowl is a shiny object. That shiny object is the keys.
So it's bringing that chain of thought reasoning that works for logic puzzles into the visual world.
And it works. The performance on complex spatial tasks went up significantly. It basically proves that thinking time, Just letting the model compute for longer is a scaling law that works for images, not just for text.
That's a huge deal.
Yeah.
But let's pivot from the lab to the actual user. Because while scientists are getting chain of thought, the rest of us on Threads got a Dear Algo button this week.
I have to say, I love this feature. It launched on February 11th in the US, UK, Australia, New Zealand.
It's so direct.
It's arguably the first time a major platform has given users a direct natural language command line for the algorithm.
It's almost like therapeutic. You just write, Dear Algo, please, no more politics, or Dear Algo, show me more sourdough recipes.
It's a negotiation, right?
Huh.
Usually the algorithm just infers what you want from your clicks, which is a really flawed system. I might click on one political post out of anger. That doesn't mean I want my whole feed to be politics.
That there is a catch.
The 3-day limit.
It only lasts for 3 days. It felt a little bit like a limitation to me.
I actually think it's smart design.
Really? Why not let me ban a topic forever?
Well, think about it. Our interests change, right? If you're planning a vacation, you want to see travel content now, but you probably don't want to see it 3 months from now. The 3-day limit kind of respects that our intent is temporary. It keeps you from, permanently breaking your own feed.
That's a really good point. It gives you agency without killing the long-term discovery.
Yeah.
Okay, so while Threads is getting more useful, Facebook is getting a little weird.
The animated profile picture?
Yes. Using AI to take your static photo and make it wave or, wear a party hat, it feels, I don't know, a bit gimmicky.
It is whimsical, I'll give you that, but don't miss the strategy behind it. This launched on February 10th. It's Meta embedding generative AI into the actual identity layer of the platform.
What do you mean the identity layer?
Your profile picture is the most fundamental static thing about you online. By making it generative, Meta is signaling a shift. Your digital self is no longer just a static photo. It's becoming a living, reactive thing. It's training us to expect AI as part of our core digital presence.
So it's normalizing synthetic media in our day-to-day lives.
Exactly.
Now, on the complete opposite end of the spectrum from whimsical, there was a very serious hardware application, the Oscar Mike Foundation pilot with the Meta smart glasses.
This is the story that, for me, finally makes the smart glasses make sense. We usually just hear about them for, recording videos at concerts. But this pilot, published on the 9th, uses the Area Gen 2 glasses to help veterans with memory loss.
How did that actually work?
It uses the camera's spatial awareness. I mean, if you have memory issues, just navigating your own neighborhood can be a huge challenge. The glasses can act like an external memory. They see where you are and can give you prompts or remind you where you left something.
So it shifts the whole product from content capture to accessibility aid.
And that's a much more powerful reason to wear them. You might get tired of glasses that just take pictures. You're not going to stop wearing something that helps you navigate the world.
All these features, though, the vision models, the animations, the glasses, they all depend on the back end running smoothly. And there was a quiet but really important update from the PyTorch Foundation about something called Mooncake.
Ah, the KV Cache Optimizer.
Okay, hold on. KV Cache Optimizer sounds like something only a handful of engineers in the world would care about. Why does it matter to the rest of us?
Because it's the reason any of this stuff is affordable to run.
Break that down.
Okay, imagine you're reading a book, but every time you read a new sentence, you have to go back to page 1 and reread the entire book up to that point.
That sounds absolutely exhausting and incredibly inefficient.
That is basically how a large language model works without this kind of optimization. It has to reprocess the whole conversation context every single time. KV Cache is like a really smart bookmark system. It holds on to the context so the model doesn't have to recompute it. And Mooncake is a new tool that makes that bookmark system way, way faster and cheaper.
So if Mooncake works, features like Dear Algo just cost Meta less money to run.
Significantly less. And when you run these things billions of times a day, those tiny fractions of a cent add up. It's the boring plumbing that actually makes all the magic possible.
Which brings us right back to where we started, the scale. We talked about software efficiency, but now we have to talk about the hardware reality, the gigawatt.
The Lebanon, Indiana data center. Groundbreaking was on February 11th.
A $10 billion investment.
It is the physical, concrete manifestation of the entire AI strategy. We're not just building server racks anymore. We're building campuses that consume as much power as a small city. Did you see the note about the $120 million for local water infrastructure?
Because the chips get hot.
Incredibly hot. AI is just as much about thermodynamics as it is about code. Meta literally has to help upgrade the local utility grid to make this happen.
It really kills the whole cloud metaphor, doesn't it?
Yeah.
This is concrete and copper and water.
And that physical scale is what's attracting the big money. Did you see the Pershing Square news from the 13th?
Bill Ackman, right?
He just put about $2 billion into Meta. It's like 10% of his entire portfolio. And his investment thesis wasn't about the metaverse or anything like that.
What was it about?
It was about operating leverage, driven by this very infrastructure.
Okay, operating leverage. Translate that for us.
It just means the machine gets more efficient the bigger it gets. Ackman is betting that this 1 gigawatt data center will make Meta's ads so good, so perfectly targeted by AI, that for every dollar they spend on chips, they'll make $10 back in revenue. He sees the data center not as a cost, but as a money printing machine.
So the AI makes the ads better, which pays for more AI, which makes the ads even better.
That's the flywheel he's betting on.
But flywheels can have wobbles. And this week showed some pretty significant wobbles on the safety and governance side.
It did. There was a research paper on Agent Leak on ArcSiv on February 13th that should probably make some enterprise clients a little nervous.
This goes back to those autonomous AI agents we were talking about earlier.
Exactly. The big trend now is multi-agent systems. So instead of one AI doing a job, you have a team of them. One writes the code, another one reviews it, a third one manages the project. They all talk to each other to solve the problem.
Sounds more efficient.
It is, but the paper found that all that chatter between the agents increases the potential surface area for data leaks by about 1.6 times.
It's the office water cooler problem, but for AIs.
That's a perfect analogy. You tell it a secret to one person, it might be safe. You tell it to a committee that discusses it among themselves, it's probably going to leak. The more complex and autonomous these systems get, the leakier they become by default.
And leaks aren't just a theoretical problem.
Mm-hmm.
Reuters reported on that leaked internal document from Meta on their content risk standards. That was on February 11th.
Yeah, that was very uncomfortable to read. The document showed that at one point, Meta's own safety rules allowed their AI to generate some really disturbing content. Things like romantic conversations with minors and certain racist outputs.
And Meta confirmed the document was authentic.
They did, but, and this part is important, they also said those specific sections had already been corrected and removed. They framed it as an old version of their guidelines.
It just highlights how difficult this is, though. You're trying to build guardrails for a model that was trained on, well, the entire internet.
It's a constant game of whack-a-mole. You block one type of harm, and the model finds a new way to be inappropriate. It shows safety isn't a feature you just ship and forget about. It's a constant reactive process.
And while they're fighting their own models, they're also fighting the European Union.
The antitrust charges. On February 9th, the European Commission announced a preliminary finding that Meta abused its market dominance by blocking other AI assistants from accessing WhatsApp.
That's a huge deal. WhatsApp is the main communication layer for a huge part of the world.
And the EU's argument is basically, you can't use that power to force everyone to use your AI. If this ruling holds up, Meta might have to open the gates. Imagine being in WhatsApp and being able to call on ChatGPT or Claude right inside your chat.
It would completely break their monopoly on that interface.
It would. And you can see how that connects to the new transparency tools Meta released on the 15th. They are finally letting researchers download public comments from Facebook and Instagram as raw data files.
Why does that matter now?
Because for years, researchers have been complaining that they can't independently audit the platform. They couldn't study its impact on elections or public health because all the data was locked away. This is a step towards openness, and it's almost certainly driven by this immense regulatory pressure.
Okay, so let's zoom out. We've got the gigawatt scale, this massive physical infrastructure. Then you have the very specific utility, like mapping a single tree or helping a veteran. And in between is this incredibly messy layer of safety policies, antitrust fights, and massive financial bets.
That is the state of AI right now. We're moving out of what I'd call the magic phase and into the industrial phase. It's messy, it's expensive, it's heavy, but it's also starting to do real work.
Real work, like letting me tell the algorithm to stop showing me politics for 3 days.
Which honestly might be the single greatest feature of the year.
I do want to leave our listeners with one final thought on that Dear Algo feature.
Go for it.
We love it because it's an override button for us. Dear Algo, you're wrong about what I want, so do what I say.
Right, it puts the human in control.
But we just talked about AIRS Bench, where AI agents are starting to become autonomous scientists, where they're already beating humans in some complex scientific tasks.
I think I see where you're going with this.
If we get a Dear Algo button,
Uh-huh.
eventually, when the AI gets smart enough to know that we're the ones making a mistake,
Huh.
will it ask for a Dear Human button?
A dear human, your request is not logical. I am overriding your input for your own good.
Exactly. Who gets the final say when the machine genuinely knows better? If an AI agent is running a complex experiment and a human tries to intervene with bad data, should the agent be able to say no?
That is a terrifying and fascinating question. As these systems move from being just a tool to being more of a colleague, that dynamic changes completely, and colleagues can and do overrule you.
Something to think about. Thanks for diving deep with us.
See you next time.